So that brings up the concept of conceptual designs. Systems that support your goals and your themes is a conceptual design. So if I start to say, what's my goal for my lifestyle? Maybe my lifestyle is I want to have healthy, nutritious food. Yeah? Good. A garden might be a great theme to support that. The garden and then the nursery supports the ability for me to have healthy, nutritious food, right? So project goals are clearly stated and reassessed. A little bit of pet peeve for me, I don't believe that the title of a permaculture master plan should have project in it. It is not a project. A project is a start and a finish, and projects are within plans. Okay? So you have the project to build the nursery, but when the nursery's done, that doesn't mean that you're completed with Raktamachat. Raktamachat is not a project. Raktamachat is a lifestyle. Our lifestyles are not projects, okay? So we have projects within the greater scheme of the plan. So plan's the big one, and then you put projects. Project to build the sala, good. Project to build the classroom, okay. And then within the classroom, maybe there's a small project to add a sink. I could describe it in that way. Those are distinct starts and finishes, okay? So brainstorm solutions we can start to look at, and we'll look at more detail later. This is just introductions to certain things. The wild design game, so I can basically put down ideas on two sides of the board, and I try to find out weird relationships. Like, hey, what if we put I don't know, hey, let's put the chicken house over the pond. Sounds like a good idea? Why not? Chicken shit. Fish eat chicken shit. So if the chicken shits into the pond and the fish eats it, I don't have to move the shit. You see? So why am I moving it to green the pond to feed the catfish? If I could put the chickens over the pond, I wouldn't have to do the work. So why can't a chicken house be over a pond? The Chinese do it all the time. They figured this out like 10,000 years ago. We just catching on, right? That they already figured out that, well, why wouldn't you put the animal system over the next system? Because that's the output goes to the input, and they shorten the chain so much that the chicken now is over. And it can still be free range, because that's what the chicken likes to do. When he walks, he comes and sits on his perch, right? And he poos in his house. That's how you can collect your chicken poo, even if you have free range chickens. So then that means that chicken poo fell into the pond. Now that might not be the pond I want to swim in. So if my pond is for swimming, I wouldn't put a chicken house over it. But what if I put a chicken house over the pond next door? Correct? That would work. And these are the type of things where we start to look at these wild relationships. So we can research, right, species and varieties. What type of species of plants and what type of varieties? Like for instance, today we talk about that was grain corn. So that's the corn, but you can't, humans don't eat grain corn as such, okay? It grows in that way. We eat like sweet corn, or we may eat like Indian corn. Those are different species of corn. Most people not grasping that they're actually different species of corn. So look at different things and look at what each one is good for, right? Popcorn being different. So if I want to grow popcorn, well, you can't take grain corn and pop it. It doesn't pop very well. Grow popcorn, right? And these are the way that we can look at what something does and why I might want to have different species for different things. Some species may actually have different fruiting times. So if I have an orchard, I can't harvest all the fruit at the same time. I have to hire people. If I have to hire people, the wage rate's too high and I don't make any money. But if I make my orchard and I have three yielding trees and I put them a third, and they all alternate the fruiting season. So now I pick this fruit, bring it to the market, and then when that's done, I pick this fruit, I bring it to the market, and when that's done, and I have 6 months of picking fruit. Not every fruit ready in 1 month. This type of situation. So explore many alternatives. Okay, you need to use patterns that support the processes and flows. So I could do this, but I could do that. Don't paint yourself in a corner and decide the first thing that popped in my mind, that's what I'm going to do. Do you have passion for that? Have you done it before? So you're just going to have made that cold turkey decision that this is who I am. I've never really thought much about it, but that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, and now I've got myself stuck in a corner because if I change, I'll look bad. Don't do that to yourself. Give yourself options. I could do this, I could do this. Sometimes we have to explore those opportunities by seeing which one works. I don't know which one's going to be the best one for me, but I'll put 4. The one that I like the most over time, I'll jump into that one. But I had experience before I got involved in it. So if I'm going to do hydroponics, there's lots of different ways to do it. right? I might want to explore the different systems before I pick one and commit everything to it. Yeah? That would be a more safe way to explore that. Optimize your path and the relationships in your design. So once I start to do my research, I can start to get the relationships, and then I place the elements on my design, and they get more solidified in the right place. This is here because it's interacting with this, and this is here because it interacts with this. Now I can say, I placed this element in this place on my design because of this. Why did you do that? This is what we're trying to explore, to answer that question. Instead of, I don't know, I just thought it would look good and I got color pencils and it looks nice, right? Then later you walk outside and start just placing things all kind of weird places. I don't know how big the tree is. I don't know what the sun angle is. I don't know anything about it. I just stuck it there. And it happens all the time. So there, that gets into the concept of master planning. After I've looked at all the research, I'm learning about everything. I'm finding out about plants. I'm trying to figure out how it works. I can create base maps. So now I have the outline of my property, the perimeter. I would put any established things if there was already access or a road, if there was already, let's say, a home or a barn or maybe water. And that becomes the base map. Once I have a base map, I start to put in information. I'm going to take the research that I have and try to get that graphically represented on the map for the future development of the property. And sometimes if I put everything on one map, it's too complicated. I can't read it. Later, I'll start to show you maps. And we're going to break those into overlays. This is a map of just shows water flows. This map just shows foliage. This map just shows access. Where are the pathways? So that way, when it goes to do the pathways, I can look at the paths without being confused by all the other things, right? Too much information or information overload. Use zones to organize your the species of a design. So this is my orchard. This is my food forest. This is my garden, right? This is my pond. This is my broad scale agricultural section where I do have grass, for instance, okay? This is where my animal systems may go if they're herbivores. But this is where my poultry or ducks may go if they're those type of poultry systems. Include all of these things on maps. You need to have like the date that you do things, the client's names. It's nice to indicate north, which direction. So if I'm presenting to someone, I'm trying to communicate to them, what is this about? So things like north, things like titles, names, these are going to help people to understand what's going on. Look at any kind of ecological boundaries. Maybe your house is near a national park, so we may show ecological boundaries, things of that nature. Any type of access, the topography, plant communities, landmarks, any kind of outstanding features that you want to communicate to the audience can be on your maps. Okay? Maps can be very architecturally drawn, very, very detailed, and they can also be very, very artistic. Okay? So I'll show you different interpretations. The main instance is communicating to the person what's going on. So note, use other methods to encourage creativity. Anything you've learned, any type of skill that you have, any kind of computer program that you may use. So I like doing this, that's fine. There's no set way to create the map. The map is to just transmit the information to your audience. Always remember when we're making a design, guys, we're trying to answer a question. We want people to say yes. So also ask yourself, say yes to what? What are you trying to show them? What are you trying to communicate to the audience? And what are you trying to get them to agree to? Yeah, to agree this is the place to put that path, to agree that this is the place, yeah, this is, and even if it's for yourself, you need to understand what you've agreed to do because you said to put it there. Did that agree that now I have to do it? So phasing, well, if we look at phase, you need to create a logical time frame. And the most thing that I've seen a lot of times, people having difficulties with time frames and or scheduling, and they basically say, here's my design, this is what it's going to look like, and it's supposed to be showing me a picture of 5 years, right? And then their schedule says that they finished in 3 months. Yeah? Then not only did they finish in 3 months, it only cost 800 euros. Wow. So your budget to make this whole nice thing is 800 euros in 3 months? Okay, so let your budget and your time be a guide. Have a longer time frame, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. Spread the budget over those time frames, okay? It won't make it so intensive. You could use Yeoman's scale of permanence as a guide. What this basically means is you should work on the things that you can't change first. It's very difficult to change the climate. So if you decide that you want to grow a banana orchard in England, that's not going to be really possible unless you build massive greenhouses, and I don't know how you're going to get your money back. You understand? So the climate's really difficult to change. So you really need to know you like that climate. Next, land shape. It's really expensive to change topography. So if it's flat and you want to make it hilly, wow, that's a lot of dirt, right? And if it's a hill and you want to make it flat, why don't you just buy flat property? Make sure you like that topography or land shape. Water, if it doesn't rain, you can't capture water in your area. It's going to be very difficult or impossible to do agriculture. So if your intentions is to have a permaculture farm producing agriculture or food, you need to understand water systems. After that, the roads. Do you have access to the property? Building roads is very expensive, okay? So is there access? Is it in the right place? Next, how do I take access from the road into the property, right? And where are my things going to be located? Roads being, if you put the road in the wrong place, guys, the cost to fix it is going to cost a lot. So that's something that we want to get right first, not change it later. Afterwards, trees. Trees typically lay out on access. So once I have my road, I have my paths, it's easy to plant trees next to roads, right? Logical place. So the zonation starts becoming created by the access, and the access helps us to lay out trees. Trees take a long time to grow up, but we can cut a tree down and we can replant a tree much easier than we can move a road. Next, buildings. Now I don't understand why buildings in his scales of permanence, but his system, not mine, would be here. I would think that buildings would be even possibly before roads. For instance, I think it'd be easier to fix a road than it may be to fix a building, like put a building in the wrong place. But conceptually, this is what he's describing. Subdivisions mean zonation. I zone the property. And next, soil. And why would he put soil last? It's the easiest thing to fix. So yes, that's one of the first things that we start to work on because we want to grow our food. But it's one of the easiest things to fix. So don't let the soil on a property or the concept that somebody like was using chemical agriculture prior disturb you. For instance, the Amish have a problem as they don't use modern technology, condoms. They have kids, and child comes out, needs to have a farm, grows up, right? Needs a farm. So they're now expanding their farms. And in order to do that, there's no more Amish farmland. They have to go get non-Amish farmland, which is basically the commercial industry. After they've done 50 years of corn, it doesn't produce very good yields. So they sell that to go get new raw land for their business model. And the Amish purchase that farm. And then they start to collectively, from their community, bring manure. So the farmer is using his horses, right? He plows, they add manure. After 5 years, they do the soil test. You cannot tell the difference between the soil test on a farm after 5 years of adding manure than an Amish farm that has never seen chemical agriculture in 200 years. The soil repairs itself. There is no trace of that left, okay? It eats it. It's only 5 years. We're fully organic. The worst farm in the world we can fix. So look for that. Take your opportunity, but make sure that you like that climate and that you can capture that water and that you like a hill or don't like a hill before you purchase it, because it's really expensive to change those things. So Yeoman scales, as I went through, since the planning of one aspect of the design influences other aspects, we need to logically order those things. Do this first, this second, this third. So implementation. Once I've done my research, I've observed it, I have a concept, I've researched it, I have all the things or access to the things that I need to make this happen, I need to have an implementation process. Long and short-term succession, like I was speaking today with the compost. Yes, we do the fast compost at the beginning because I need compost quickly to get food going, saves me money. But in a longer succession, I would do longer-term composting systems, like in my food forest and compost like that, so that I would be able to get that same amount of compost with less work on my part, but that's a longer-term succession. I may even think about things like at Raktamachat, we built the buildings. There's no trees here. I have to build the building, so I had to build the structure, and I had to buy the rafters. But I know that in 50 to 100 years, the roof may need to be replaced. And instead of having to buy rafters again, I planted the trees in order to change the roofs on these buildings. So in the future community, I won't be here, they'll be able to change the roof by cutting down their own trees, right? And then at that point, they have to replant the trees. So in another 100 years, they can replant them. So that's a long-term tree. That's my teak tree. My teak tree takes 50 years to mature. But in the short term, I want to do buildings. So I now have my roundhouse in the back in the natural building that we saw. And I want to put the roundhouse up. But I planted the trees when I started the farm 8 years ago in order to have the rafters for that roundhouse so I won't have to purchase them. But this is a short-term thing. I planted casuarina trees. So now the casuarina trees are almost 12 meters tall. I will thin every other casuarina tree. They will then fill in the long-term windbreak. And every other one, which is approximately 100 out of the 200, so I will get 100 12-meter long rafters that I can then use for our natural building projects to complete our buildings. So this is a short-term thing because that tree grows really fast, but it will not last a long time. The longer term is the hardwood tree. So these are same with our compost, same with our trees, same with our water systems. I built this pond first. The next year I dug the second pond, the third pond, and each year I dug one small pond because the cash flow for me to dig one pond per year is manageable. If I thought I had to dig all the ponds at the same time, it would just not be possible from a normalized cash flow, right? But if I spread that over 10 years, then I get the 10 ponds for the total property over 10 years. So these are short-term thought processes and long-term. So we need to think about sources of labor and materials. What materials are you going to use to build your property? Yes, it's great. I'm going to build my whole place out of adobe. Well, that's only one part of the building. What about the other parts? Where are you going to get those? Can you establish credit to where you could, buy your materials and have them financed over a period of time from like maybe the material supplier? Could you trade something that you make for materials, right? A local farmer would allow you to go into his maybe wood lot and harvest wood for some other trade. Maybe you help him with his animals or something. Look at feedback loops and how your systems function. So at this point, I start to think about and I'm imagining the systems that are functioning on my farm. Like today, we worked on composting system. That's my soil fertility management system. Compost is just one element of my soil fertility management system or integrated soil fertility management. So in this instance, I want to see those loops and what's happening. How does the soil, how do I get the resources here? How do I process it to there? How does that get nutritious food into my kitchen? How does my kitchen waste get out of my kitchen? For instance, like with labor, Mung today, we saw he went and got the Napier grass. That's very nice. That's a thing he does every day. At lunch, he cleaned up and he sold the recycling. Yeah? And he gets some money because that's like how your kids work, right? they sell the stuff and buy snacks or whatever. So these are type of things. Who's going to do that? Are you going to do it? Is someone else going to do it? So install your design and be flexible. Once you start, remember, walk before you run. Make sure that you have some flexibility. Don't get dead set, this is the only way I can do this, or you're going to get disappointed. So be flexible, work with it, find out what works for you. Once you have a system that's working well, you're happy with everything, you can scale it up, right? So first build something on a smaller scale. Once it's working, then you scale up. If you try to build a big one first, right, and it's not working, you'll have a big failure. That's not very fun. So if you're going to have failures, make them small, make them manageable, right? Make small-scale trials where possible, evaluate each step, and modify your design as needed. Your design is never going to be finished. It's an organic document. It's a living document. So as you learn more information, as you gain more experience, your document will change along with you, along with your design. Raktamachat is continuously growing. We continuously learn new things, right? New technology is entered into the market. New people have discovered new things in permaculture that I can find. Every course I get to see master plans of people doing research. It adds up to a lot of research that is presented. And wow, I never saw that before ever. That's really cool. That's changing the way I think about that aspect, right? So then I can go back and modify my concepts of each of those things, whether it's soils or growing food or any of the things, educational aspects. So we evaluate, we finish up, we constantly appraise, test, observe how each element in our process serves the goals and the needs of the client. So if I'm a consultant, I have to come back and see how is the design going. If it's my personal design, I should do that also with myself. This is what my goals for last year were. How did we do? Did we meet our goals, right? What could have been done better? What did we learn, right? At every step, reflect, make adjustments, and monitor and evaluate. And if you do it small pieces, little by little, you don't set yourself up for these failure scenarios. Consider each step in light of your design goals. What are your goals, and how did that go? All right, is that servicing my goals, my lifestyle? Am I achieving the lifestyle that I want? Am I achieving the growth that I would like to have, right? Be that professional, intellectual, through relationships, spirituality, health, if I have a goal of lifting more weight or whatever I want to do. These things you need to be able to evaluate.